We use it every single day. We earn it, we spend it, we think about it all the time. But have you ever really stopped and asked yourself, what is money? Where did it even come from? Well, today we're going to find out. We're taking a journey from a world that had no money at all the way to the digital world of today. It's going to be a wild ride.
So, let's just jump right into a thought experiment. Picture this. You're a farmer, way back in the day. Your most valuable thing in the world is a big, strong ox. But your shoes are completely worn out. They've got holes in them. So how do you do it? How do you possibly trade a whole living ox for just one pair of shoes? That simple little puzzle, well, that's the reason money was invented in the first place.
It's kind of hard for us to even imagine, but for most of human history, there were no coins, no dollar bills, definitely no credit cards. We lived in a world where every single exchange was direct. If you wanted something, you had to have something that the other person wanted to trade for. Simple as that.
And this system has a name, of course. It's called the barter system. It's the most basic form of trade you can imagine. And look, on a super small scale, it works just fine. You've got a sandwich your friend wants, they have a bag of chips you want, perfect, you swap. Easy. But what happens when things get a little more complicated than a school lunch? Well, that's where the whole system starts to get really, really messy.
Because, you see, while that idea of direct trade sounds all nice and simple on paper, in the real world, it was just a logistical nightmare. The barter system was absolutely packed with these huge, frustrating problems that made everyday life incredibly difficult.
To really get what I'm talking about, let's go back to our farmer and his ox. He's not just trying to get one thing, right? He's got a whole shopping list of things his family needs.
Okay, so he needs those shoes from the cobbler, he needs a warm sweater from the weaver, and, most important of all, he needs to get some medicine for his grandmother who's sick. So that's 3 different things from 3 totally different people, and all he has to trade is that one single ox.
So right off the bat, he runs into the biggest problem of all. And honestly, it's just a problem of pure luck. Just think about it for a second. Our farmer has to find a shoemaker who not only has shoes in his size, but who also just happens to desperately need an ox at that exact moment. I mean, what are the odds of that? It's so unlikely. There's actually a fancy term for this. It's called the double coincidence of wants. You both have to want what the other person has.
But okay, let's pretend he gets super lucky. He finds the cobbler who wants an ox. Now you hit problem number 2. How do you figure out what anything is worth? Is an ox worth 10 pairs of shoes? 100? How many sweaters is a pair of shoes worth? Every single time you wanted to trade, you had to start this long, drawn-out negotiation from scratch, because there was just no common standard of value.
And this leads us straight into the next huge issue, divisibility. A sweater is obviously worth a lot less than a whole ox. But what are you going to do? You can't just saw off the ox's leg and trade that, right? The animal is a single unit. So things like livestock made buying small, everyday items almost impossible.
And believe me, the headaches didn't stop there. Portability was a massive problem. I mean, can you imagine having to drag an ox with you to the market every time you just needed a loaf of bread? And even if you solve that, say, by trading your ox for something easier to carry, like a bunch of wheat, now you've got a durability problem. That wheat can get moldy, it can rot, rats can eat it. Your entire life savings could literally just vanish into thin air.
So, yeah, barter was not working out. As communities got bigger and trade became more important, the system just couldn't handle it. Humanity desperately needed a better way to do things, a brand new technology that could make everything run smoother. And that technology, that huge idea, was money. And money was just this beautiful, elegant solution to all of those problems we just talked about. All of a sudden, you had a single medium of exchange that everybody agreed to accept. No more searching for that perfect 1 in a million trade. You had a common measure to value everything, so no more endless arguing over prices. And you had a durable store of value that wouldn't rot or die. It wasn't just an improvement, it was a total revolution.
But money didn't just pop into existence as the coins and bills we know today. Oh no. Its history is this long, fascinating, and sometimes really weird story. So let's take a look at how it evolved.
This timeline really gives you a great sense of the journey. We start with barter, then we move to these early forms of money like shells, and then bam, a huge leap forward with metal coins around 600 BCE. But look how long it takes to get to paper money. And then, the really crazy part is how fast things change at the end. In just the last few decades, we've jumped from paper to plastic to money that's completely invisible and digital.
Because, the very first types of money weren't fancy metals at all.
They were just common items, commodities that everyone in a particular society agreed were valuable. For example, in ancient Rome, soldiers were sometimes paid in salt. In fact, that's where we get the word salary. How cool is that? In other places, they used things like tea, tobacco, or even cattle as cash.
And some of these early currencies were, well, they were just wild. Get this, on the Pacific island of Yap, their money was these giant circular stones called rye stones. Some of them were so huge they weighed more than a car, and you couldn't even move them. So ownership wasn't about having the stone in your pocket. It was just a verbal agreement, something everyone in the village just knew.
And if you think stone wheels are strange, how about this? In the Solomon Islands, one of their most valuable forms of money was called tevao, and it was made of these long belts of tiny red feathers from thousands and thousands of birds. Just imagine the amount of work that went into making one of those.
Or in central Mexico, the Aztecs used copper money that looked like a little axe blade. So what does all this, the stones, the feathers, the tools, what does it all prove? It proves that the most important thing about money isn't what it's made of. It's the shared belief. Money is just a story that we all agree to believe in.
And that exact same drive for a better, more convenient story is still pushing us forward today. It's what's moving us away from physical things and toward pure information. We're going from cash to code.
You can see this perfect cycle throughout history. So coins were a huge step up from bartering, but they created a new problem. They were heavy. Carrying around big bags of gold and silver was a pain, and it was dangerous. So what was the solution? A new technology, paper money. It was basically a lightweight IOU, a promise of value that was way easier to carry.
And isn't it funny? We're living through that exact same cycle right now. What's the problem today? Even carrying cash or a bunch of plastic cards can be inconvenient. You can lose your wallet, you can forget a card. And what's the solution? Digital money. Instant, totally weightless transactions right from the phone that's already in your pocket. It's the same old story, a constant search for what's easier.
The famous economist John Maynard Keynes really hit the nail on the head. He said money's importance comes from it being a link between the present and the future. It's not just about buying stuff today. It's a tool that lets us store the value of our work today and carry it with us into tomorrow, next week, or next year.
So, money isn't some fixed, unchanging thing. It's a technology. And like any technology, it's always evolving. We've gone from shells to giant stones, from paper bills to streams of data. It's always changing to become more efficient, faster, and more convenient. Which really just leaves us with one big, fascinating question. What's next?